Oh, good morning, or for you, Professor, good afternoon. This assignment was due the 28th of June, and it is now the 3rd of July, day before the greatest day, I think, in America tomorrow, July 4th. 250 years of greatness here in the USA. So, I want to apologize first and foremost for not turning in this assignment on time. I didn't realize that it was in the modules on the Canvas. I was looking in the book, so I took the time to do some notes, just kind of dial some stuff up. So it's, for me as a man doing this work, it's my responsibility to get things done on time, to do it with perfection, and to not think that I'm disowning you as a student or disowning you as my teacher or as my professor by not turning in good quality work on time. So for me, I apologize. There's no excuse. I should have paid attention. I watched about 10 minutes of the video and stopped that you posted on there and didn't watch all of it, and there could have been more information on there. So I did a dishonor to you as one of your students, and I didn't do quality work on time for you, and so I completely apologize. If there's any taking off points, I do it because I am never going to learn. I'm 24 years old, special education major. Bleed red, white, and blue every single day. I take care of my priorities, but I didn't put my class or this assignment as a priority, and I held off because I couldn't figure it out. So I do apologize, and something like this I can't say it won't happen again, because I told you that I wouldn't turn in an assignment late, and I did. So, actions speak louder than words. So, yeah, I just wanted to apologize to you about that, but anyways, I decided to do a 7 to 8 minute video. So the few minutes that I took saying that, just kind of disregard that. But starting now is the 7 to 8 minute presentation, of my notes that I took, with all the sources. But so first off, I will say that reading the most dangerous, article, I will say that the purpose of this presentation is to kind of evaluate the argument made in the paper, in the position paper actually that we had to read, and to determine whether transnational criminal organizations or rival nation states pose the greater everyday threat to the American way of life. And the American way of life it honestly includes personal safety, public health, economic opportunity, community stability, and the ability of law enforcement to protect communities. And my position is, I generally agree that cartels have a significant day-to-day impact on Americans, although rival nation states remain major long-term national security threats. Again, that's my personal opinion. And then I will say that reading Mexico's long drug war, it explains that Mexico's government had launched a major crackdown on the drug cartels in 2006, but instead of ending all of the violence, it led to even more conflict and fragmentation all throughout. And the result of it honestly ended up being there were hundreds of thousands of deaths, and a widespread of instability, and a growth of powerful transnational cartels like Sinaloa, pretty sure I pronounced that right, and CJNG, that continue to operate across Mexico and the United States still. So, moving on then. So I wrote some notes for the Article 2 of the Constitution. The Constitution gives the president important responsibilities in foreign policy and national security, and as commander-in-chief, the president directs the military, and as the chief diplomat, the president works with foreign governments and negotiates international agreements. So things that go on with, it could be, all this crap that's going on with Iran. Russia, yeah, and that can kind of relate to just everything. I guess that's going on in today's world, but and then kind of expanding on presidential power. Over time, presidents have gained more influence in foreign affairs because modern threats often require quick. I'm sorry, I lost my thread. Modern threats often require quick decisions that Congress cannot always make immediately. And then with the informational, like presidential powers and things like that, presidents also use executive orders, like intelligence briefings, executive agreements, and the National Security Council to respond to modern security challenges. So usually if there are any challenges, then they'll just kind of go based off of, it could be national security and basically just everything that I had listed. So, and then the executive agencies, I'll say that the federal agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, DEA, CIA, and the Department of State, they all work together to gather all the intelligence, enforce the laws, and respond to any of the threats that are out there. Kind of going note on the position paper, the author does argue that modern warfare is no longer limited to wars between countries, but instead decentralized criminal organizations such as the Mexican drug cartels use asymmetrical tactics that damage American society every day. We're letting them come into America illegally. Well, now we're not, but we did. And all this shit has been building up, and they're killing our people, they're ruining society, and, thankfully now the border's on a lot more of a lockdown status than it has been, but, like in Montana, Wyoming, like places like that, I know, like in Montana, like the Mexican cartels, like it's very populated, obviously. It's not as populated to where they could like run the whole state, but I know like in that upper left corner of the map, it's not really safe in my opinion. But so I did some evidence, or I found some evidence from the Council on Foreign Relations article, or I found an article of it. And the Council on Foreign Relations explains that Mexico's war against the cartels has resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths since 2006. The article also shows how organizations like the Sinaloa cartel and the CJNG have expanded internationally and continue to profit from drug trafficking, especially fentanyl. Fentanyl has been spreading all around the country, and it not only kills us just by smoking it or if it's laced with something, but just like cops, I see like body cam footage of like cops will just be around fentanyl, and it immediately gets you like that. I mean, it's one of the worst drugs in modern American history, in my personal opinion. Obviously, there's meth and crap like that, but you have to use a needle injected in you. But like fentanyl can either work good for you. You like using it like in the medical field if it's medically supplied, or abusing it where it could ruin your whole way of life to where you only get one shot at life, and fentanyl just takes that life away just like that. So, but moving on though, comparing the nation states and the cartels, I think China is a threat, in my opinion. China personally challenges the United States through cyber operations, economic influence, technological competition, and military modernization rather than through direct military conflict. Obviously, my opinion, the USA, the great nation of the world, has the greatest military of all time. But with China having so many people, I mean, it's basically a race to AI right now, in my opinion, between I guess you could say the Asians and then the US. Yes, we have Elon Musk, who's an absolute super genius, and we have a great, again, I don't know, I'm not trying to go into politics, but I think we have a great president. There's ups and downs in presidency, but I think overall we have a great president. And China over there, I mean, they have the people They have AI. I mean, they definitely have the population. I mean, Jesus Christ, over they have over a billion people. I mean, China, in my opinion, China is the biggest threat to America and will forever be. Russia, sure, you guys can have your nukes, but when it comes down to the space race, China's the one. China's, again, my opinion, very big threat. Russia also is a threat. I'd say that Russia remains a major military power, again, because of its nuclear weapons. And they also have some cyber capabilities as well. And their actions in Ukraine, with the war and everything. But direct conflict with the United States is still unlikely because of deterrence. So, Russia, it could be Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin. They could talk all they want. But I think if it came down to it, I think that Trump would just say, hey, you know what? Okay, we're going to go and we're going to bomb you. But then it'd be like, okay, if one missile launches, then everybody's dead. If one singular missile is launched, the whole world's just going to pummel. Because it's basically who has the bigger private parts. I'm not going to be inappropriate and say words because I'm speaking to my professor, but it's basically who has the bigger private parts. And so it basically would just be game over for everybody. Iran and North Korea. Iran supports proxy groups in the Middle East, while North Korea relies on nuclear weapons and cybercrime to challenge other countries. And that compared with cartels, nation states threaten national security through military and geopolitical competition, while cartels affect daily life through drug trafficking, organized crime, and violence. And the assignment asks us to focus on those everyday impacts. The cartel violence video, the YouTube video. Let me see here. Okay. I think the video demonstrates heavily armed cartel members attacking government forces, blocking roads, and disrupting normal life. And these actions resemble organized armed conflict rather than ordinary criminal activity. Obviously, if they're the cartel, they have a lot more weapons and they can do a lot more, and they're a lot more powerful. And I think this supports the author's argument that cartels increasingly use tactics associated with modern asymmetrical warfare. Say with the policy responses and everything with the military force, the U.S., I think that the U.S. military against cartels raises difficult constitutional and diplomatic questions because military operations inside another country involve issues of sovereignty and international law. I mean, if we wanted to, we could go and we could go at the cartel. We could easily go at the cartel, but that raises a lot of conflict just with international law and everything else. But many experts recommend intelligence sharing, extradition, financial investigations, sanctions, and cooperation between U.S. and Mexican law enforcement instead of relying just on the military force. And it's been limited because the cartels can adapt quickly, earn enormous profits, exploit corruption, and operate across international borders. These factors have made them difficult, honestly, to dismantle despite decades of government efforts. So, but I mean, that kind of wraps everything up. I mean, I wrote some stuff down for a conclusion, but after looking at all the course materials, using all the sources, I believe that the evidence shows that cartels create a significant day-to-day threat, specifically because of their impact on not only public safety, but public health and community stability. And at the same time, countries such as China and Russia remain serious long-term strategic challenges. And I think it'll always be USA, Russia, China, or USA, China, Russia. It's always going to be, I will never put any country above American dream, the USA. I will never do that. So, but for the rest of my life, and possibly for the rest of yours, it's going to be those three countries are just top dogs. Obviously, the USA is always going to be number one. But and my final takeaway from everything is, overall, with everything, the course materials show that modern national security requires addressing both traditional nation-state threats and traditional criminal organizations, and since each affects the United States in different ways. If you want to come to the USA, you have to be on your feet, do work, you have to come here illegally, and you have to be able to pass the test to get in. I mean, it's not really that hard. But I feel like I could really go deeper and deeper into stuff. Obviously, I know one thing I don't really talk about with people is politics, religion, everything like that. But I feel like since you're my professor, obviously I can kind of say like what my side is and everything, which I think you can pretty much put all the pieces together for me talking about the USA and how much, the USA and how great it is. I'm pretty sure you can go exactly where my point of view or my thoughts are. But I'm going to wrap up the video. I know it's probably longer than 7 to 8 minutes. I take away as many points as you need. I completely understand everything. It was disrespectful of me not to turn it in on time. I didn't pay attention to the video. I didn't thoroughly use my sources from the standpoint of I didn't look on Canvas and look at modules. I was looking in the book, looking for modules. And so it was a brain fart, but, I got to learn, and I got to learn quick. So, alrighty, Professor. Well, I appreciate it. I know it's 1:15 or 13:15. If you know, you know. For me, so you're probably 3 hours behind. So, hope you have a good morning, and I will be turning in some assignments. All right, take it easy.